Okay, people, it is 2 o'clock and we're live. And it's Friday. It's January 10th. Dr. Patrick Scott. And I'm going to turn my phone off. I don't know about you. I have to laugh because I'm kind of a sucker for technology. I love knowledge of things that work. And so I don't know if you've seen some of these cloaking things where you can pay a fee and they're going to protect your data and they're going to cloak you, and so you're not going to get scam calls anymore. And I think it's a scam. And I'm not trying to be difficult, and I'm not trying to be negative. But about a couple months ago, I paid, I don't know how much it was. It wasn't a lot of money, $10 or whatever, for this cloaking service. And I think my scam calls have actually increased. I've also gone into T-Mobile and I've turned on the call blocking. And I think aside from just blocking everything and making, going through all this other thing, I just think that this is our life today. And we talk about the uh, overwhelm, and I don't know about you. I had somebody last hour. Today, I want to talk about the shadow. I want to talk about New Year's intentions. I want to talk about your, like, what you own, what's yours, what you can directly control, what's beyond you, where you can influence. And we're recording this, and so you'll be able to listen to it. And let's start with what I call the circles of influence, which are, there's what you can directly control. Now, and my hearts go out to California. Yesterday, a part of our team for the Veterans Program live in California. I have a lot of friends, family, colleagues in California. I myself lived in California for 15 years. And this is the worst I've seen. This is the worst. And amongst the spiritual community, there is sort of an ethic that we create our own karma, certainly in the Buddhist sense. And I hear from my Hindu and Muslim and Christian friends that there is an attempt for us to take as much ownership as we can for what we attract. And I have some boundaries around that I want to talk to you about. We say in NLP, perception is interpretation. We used to say perception is projection. I'm going to explain those in a minute. In psychology, we talk about projection. In psychology, we talk about the shadow. And while I'm not going to do an entire psychological lecture here, I want to help you this year as we start the year. This is our first YouTube Live of the year. I want to help you set some intentions for this year and to help you understand what you own, what you can't own, what is your responsibility, or as we say in Hawaiian, what is your kuleana, Kuleana. Because the reality is the only thing that you can directly control is yourself. You can control what you do, and you can control how you think. Now, there are already some people at that level that say, well, I can't control my thinking at all. I think my thinking is random. But the reality is, with techniques and with help and with therapy and with release work and all the stuff that we do, you can actually manage your thinking more effectively than you probably do. That's the essence of psychotherapy. It's the essence of cognitive behavioral therapy, is managing your thinking. And you do have control over that. As Josh points out, he says we can't change people, merely how we react. And I'll expand on that and say we can't change or directly control situations outside of us, only our reactions to them. And so in the last year or so, this list is by no means exhaustive. It's exhausting. There's been some stuff. I will technically call it shit going on the planet. I'm thinking all the way back to the Maui Lahaina fire. Um, you all know that that happened. I'm thinking back to the hurricane in Florida. I'm thinking now to the California fires. Kilauea in the Big Island is erupting, and there's been no damage because it's contained, and we know about those eruptions. We can talk about the war in Ukraine. We can talk about the war in Gaza and Israel. We can talk about many things. I'm not an expert on any of these things by any means. We can talk about the presidential election this fall. Many of you joined me in a release and recovery class live here in Las Vegas. You joined me for my monthly release meditation ho'oku'u last month, and last night we had a bunch of folks releasing and recovering. Not so much from the election, just from life. And you can't directly control things that are outside of yourself. So you can control what you do, you can control how you think. Now, to a lesser degree, you have feelings or emotions, and you have physiology. Your body does stuff. And that William Glasser, a noted psychiatrist, used to call total behavior. Hi, Early. Nice to see you. And so, doing, thinking, feeling, and physiology. The top two you can directly control, the bottom two you can indirectly influence. So, this smallest circle, if in the spheres of influence, really is your direct control, which is your own behavior. You can control how you react. It seems so elusive, though. You can control what you do, the actions you do. And it gets frustrating because, I've lost 100 plus pounds in the last 18 months. And I, for my entire life, didn't feel like food or eating or exercise was within my control. Even though I would watch people and they'd say, well, you can control what you put in your mouth. I didn't feel like it. You can control how much you exercise or whether you go to the gym or not. I didn't feel like it. And so you can control your emotions. Doesn't feel like it. You can control directly what your body does, the physiologies, the illness, the immune suppression. Doesn't feel like it. And so I'm there with you. I'm absolutely there with you that this whole management of ourselves is a complicated and interesting journey. And so the smallest sphere of your influence is what you can directly do. And this is going to become important as we talk about other aspects of the shadow and other psychological constructs today. The next sphere, so if they're concentric circles, the smallest one is what you can control. The next one is where you can influence. And my joke is if you've ever had a 2-year-old or a 10-year-old or a dog or a cat or a puppy or an iguana or a spouse or a coworker, and you think you can directly control their behavior, I wish you luck. That's all I have to say about that. A lot of times in therapy, people come in, couples come in, families come in. How do I get my so-and-so to do X? Or how do I get my so-and-so to stop doing X? People come to us in recovery, from alcohol and drugs, and they say, I'm just my alcoholism. I'll talk a little bit today about the veterans program and some of the great work we're doing here at Heads Up. And you know, human behavior. Who knew? You at best had influence with yourself around your emotions and around what your body does physically. You have even less influence around other people and other people's behavior and other things like that. And so it's always interesting to me when someone, and it happens every week. I'm trying to think of my caseload this week, where someone has come in and said, I just need to get my so-and-so to do such and such. Like, well, good luck, And Josh celebrates 169 days of sobriety today. It's an uphill battle and worth it. And I work almost exclusively with substance abuse and chemical dependency and alcoholism and drug addiction. And it's hard. So congratulations, Josh. It is a big, big achievement. My brother, the older, wiser Dr. Scott, just celebrated his 50 years. That's 50 years of sobriety from alcohol. He showed me his chip. And you know what? I have permission if you want to see what a 50-year chip looks like, let me see if I can put it up for you. I thought it should be like an Olympic gold medal, and it should be on it should be like the Congressional Medal of Honor or something. And I was really surprised, size of a quarter. Let me pull it up. It may take me a second. Stalling. Yeah, here we go. Just going to put it in the chat. Well, I thought I was going to try to put it in the chat. And you all disappeared. Oh, wait a minute. Start a Q&A, start a poll. Apparently I can't share anything with you. Can I? Share a screen. Oh, you know what? I can share my screen. Let's do that. And we'll do that. And my computer's freaking out about protections. Okay. I can't because I would have to quit Chrome and give it permission and reboot and start the computer and throw salt over my shoulder and sing Kumbaya. And I can share this, sharing this tab to Studio YouTube, View tab, Studio YouTube. Can you see it? I'm making it bigger. It's about the size of a quarter. It doesn't weigh very much, but it has an L on it. Unity, service, and recovery. To thine own self be true is what it says. And I would love, oh, you got it pretty. Okay. Yes. Okay. So you can do it. So I'm doing it. I'm doing this thing because I get grumpy with technology. So that's awesome. All right. Stop sharing. And I am so proud of him. He's a retired psychologist. And I'm just very proud. And so we have Josh on the one hand who has 169, and I don't know the rest of you who are on here, your stories, but Josh is celebrating 169 days. And I will tell you that my brother at 50 years is as committed to sobriety and as committed to controlling his own behavior. And that's what we're talking about today is how do you manage yourself in the environment that we're in? So back to natural disasters. And my heart goes out to California right now, just as it went to Florida and the hurricane. And I had clients that lost homes in Florida just to, we could just count the ways, Lahaina, anybody, there's things going on in the world. Some funny anecdotes. Question recall is, what am I doing to attract these things into my life? What is wrong with me that my shadow is the war in Ukraine? My shadow is the Holocaust. My shadow is the solar flares. My shadow is the sun, moon, and the stars, the tides. No, it's not. So I'm going to tell you two funny stories. You may know one of the players, you probably don't know the other. So you know that I work in psychiatry. I'm a professor of psychiatry, actually. And I had a child psychiatrist who I coach and I train, and I work in medical schools. And she comes to me. She's a noted psychiatrist in town, and she comes to me. She is the medical director of a girls, listen carefully, adolescent girls inpatient residential substance abuse facility. You got it? Girls, adolescent, inpatient, residential substance abuse facility. She comes to our session one day and she's just really fretting. And it was a session after she left the hospital and came over to where I work. And she said, I am having one hell of a shadow issue today. I said, what's going on? She says, I can't believe it. The girls staged a sit-in the day room today. They sat down and they turned over the furniture and they locked arms in solidarity and sat in a circle and refused to eat, refused to drink, and refused their meds. What am I doing to attract that? Okay, now I'm going to let it just kind of sit there while I take a drink of water. What am I doing? What is it about me that's attracting that kind of behavior? And I paused for effect. and I have great rapport with my clients. And I said, sweetheart, you're a child psychiatrist. That's what you did. You work at an adolescent girls treatment facility. That's what you did. You think that by being a child psychiatrist in an adolescent girls treatment facility, you're not going to have some wacky behaviors? Really? She just laughed. She just started laughing. She said, why is it that we blame ourselves? And I said, that is listen to this carefully. This is our best attempt to control. Because we try to control that which is out of control, if only we could. And it doesn't matter whether you think you're controlling or not, lest you think you're such a controlling personality. It's not about that. The reality is, sorry, there's stuff beyond your control. And that's the third circle. So remember, first circle is what you do, what you think, your own behavior, your own reactions, right? Second circle, where you can influence. You can influence a puppy. You can influence a 2-year-old. You can influence a spouse or a coworker. You can influence yourself to manage your emotions more effectively. You can influence yourself to take action against your goals, and we'll get there. You can influence yourself. The biggest circle in the spheres of influence is what's called beyond me. Now, in the realm of beyond me, usually is other people's behavior. The sun, moon, and the stars, solar flares, earthquakes, fires, floods, riots, I don't know, Kilauea, hurricanes, tsunamis, natural disasters, fires, things like that. They are beyond you. It could be argued that as a species, as a planet, we have made distinctions and decisions over the millennia that have influenced the planet. Call it global warming, call it whatever. Now, there are those that believe that global warming, is just a routine cycle. We have ice ages and that kind of thing. There's another point of view that says, given the carbon emissions and the pollution, that we are influencing those natural cycles and rhythms. Whichever side of the fence you're on, it's beyond you, really. You can do your best. You can recycle and you can buy a Prius or a Tesla or a Cybertruck or, whatever there's things you can do. I'm very proud of myself. I do where I can. I try to conserve and I try to reuse things. And I have my grocery bags I bring to the store, and I don't use straws at Starbucks. It's so funny. I still go to Starbucks and I get the plastic grande coffee, but I don't get a straw. That's my contribution, right? I don't get receipts at the gas station. I don't get receipts at the ATM. I'm trying to limit my use of paper and so on. Do I and can I directly control global warming? No. And I'm cool with that. Did I cause the war in Ukraine? No, not that powerful. So that's example number one. This is the child psychiatrist who thinks she's somehow attracting crazy adolescent girls. Now, it could be argued, honey, you're a child psychiatrist. That's like, I have another client who's an OBGYN, and it's like, that would be like an OBGYN going, God, where are all these babies coming from? What did I do in my life to attract all these pregnant women and birthing all these babies? Well, you became an OBGYN. That's what you did, right? And I say this tongue in cheek, and I say this with all the love in the world, because I'm very thankful that the people I work with want to take 300% responsibility for everything. And that's really great. Josh asks about the locus of control, and I think it might be helpful to mention that now. The locus of control is a psychological theory that has it's on a spectrum, as many things are these days, a spectrum. On the one side is external locus of control. Now, locus is the root word for location. And the theory is, where do people find control resides in their life? People who are very internal, not surprisingly, take a lot of responsibility. And they find that their control issues, if you will, come from them, that they control, that they are responsible. And they use words like I, me, mine. They use words that about accountability, about taking ownership, about that kind of stuff, responsibility, personal responsibility. Now, the other end of the spectrum, if internal is Now, and you would think that internal is the way to go, but it has its downside, and I'll talk about that in a second. So the one side is internal, the other side is external. And that external, people use the language of they, he, she, it. They tend to use fault and blame. They tend to attribute external cause to things. I couldn't, the dog ate my homework, the sun was in my eyes, you don't understand, I couldn't come to work because of this, that, or the other thing. All right. Now, a statistic that has remained constant in the United States for the last 50 or so years is that about 80% of the people in this country have more of an external point of view. They attribute what happens to luck, to blame, to fault, to things that are beyond them. Now, on the one hand, it can be healthy. On the other hand, they don't take a lot of responsibility. You know, they blame a lot of others for blame others and other things. I have bad luck. It's my karma. God made me do it. My XYZ person made me do it. I can't do my life because of substance abuse. I can't. I have to drink because, and so on. And so you can see those two polarities. The healthy place is not what you'd think. I know people who are so internal it causes them ulcers. They take so much responsibility that it's actually detrimental to their health. Hence, my clients that come in and say, "What am I doing to create these crazy girls on the unit?" Well, you became a psychiatrist. You became a psychiatrist. You're going to attract some people with mental illness. You become an OBGYN. You're going to attract some pregnant women with babies. Sorry, I am a therapist. I do a lot of things. So my other example, some of you know Matt James, Dr. Matt James, wonderful teacher, my mentor, my Kumu, my Hawaiian teacher. I'm sitting on stage with him. This is a decade ago now. Sitting on stage with him, we're co-leading the first day of Huna in Hawaii, and the comeback music is on, big crowd, couple hundred people in the audience. It's class. It's a Huna class for those of you that don't know. It's a workshop, in Hawaii. And he looks at me and, we're just chatting and he says, "Wow, looks like there's some real winners in here, in this class." And I said, "Winners?" He goes, "Yeah." He says, some of these people seem like they're not very tightly wrapped, or they're kind of loosely wrapped. I forget exactly how he said it. And he meant it in good fun, And I looked at him and I said, "Matt James, so you teach Hawaiian ancient shamanistic studies in Hawaii. You don't think you're going to attract—" Oh, no, he did ask, he said, "I wonder what I'm doing to attract the ones that are maybe a little out there, people a little out there, a little woo or a little hippie like or whatever." He's a very generous guy. He's a very kind guy. But again, a la I take full responsibility. It's like, what am I doing to attract the kind of woo-woo out there people? And I just looked at him, I said, "You teach ancient Hawaiian shamanistic studies on the Big Island." He laughed. He goes, "Oh yeah, that's right." I said, "You don't think you're going to attract some people who are out there from time to time?" So I'd like you to take a look at your life. First of all, the healthy place for the locus of control is more to the end. So if there's a spectrum and it's a scale of 100%, we'd like you to be, and this is the healthy statistical psychological place, more on the internal, but not at 100%. Like 80, 85% would be a really healthy place where you're making the acknowledgement of between what I can control, where I can influence, and what is beyond me. And truly, and this is tough, because I'm sitting here and we just yesterday, we had a call with our colleagues in California because we're partnered with a company, a rehab in California. And, I try to not watch the news. I try to manage what I take in, but this is tragic. I mean, thousands of homes have been burned, but it's no more or less tragic than the war in Ukraine or the Lahaina fire or the hurricane in Florida, or this is any war at all or any natural disaster at all. Doesn't mean I don't still have feelings, and I feel helpless because there's really nothing that I can do about it. There's nothing we can do about it. And that's really, I think, the hard part. And so when we look at locus of control, when we want to blame ourselves or take more ownership than is ours to take, that's our best attempt to control. Certainly in the stages of grief and death, death and dying, um, there are stages, and if any of you have lost anyone in your life or a pet, you go through distinct stages. You shock and numb, and then denial. You just kind of forget that they're gone. Then you get angry, maybe angry at them, angry at God, and then you do this thing called bargaining, which is the fourth stage of five, which is basically, well, if only I were there, or if only I had done something different, or if only I shoulda, woulda, coulda. And it's a very normal, natural stage that people go through. And the bargaining stage in particular is one's best attempt to stay in control. Because if at least if I can blame myself, then maybe I can make a difference. If at least I can be guilty about it, maybe I can, you know, if I blame myself, then maybe I can take more of a, have a sense more of locus of control about this death. The reality is, of course, there's invariably nothing that we can do about an accident or a death or a cancer or whatever it is. So like that. So what are you intending for yourself and this year? What are some of your goals? And this is rhetorical, um, but I'd like you to look at, you can have goals, you can have financial goals, physical goals, health goals, spiritual, relational, economic, educational, self-improvement, kinds of goals. Understand, number one, that what you can directly control is you. And it's been said so many times in so many different ways that we are often our own worst enemy. And that the first battle, the first step in any change process has to be a relationship with yourself. Truly. That, so I was working with a lady today, and she's been part of, has had natural disasters that's destroyed a home this year or last year, sorry. And, making distinctions about how to juggle all these things and rebuild and, all that kind of stuff. And the guidance that she got, and I did a psychic reading for her, and the guidance that she got from her guides was basically, it's not about the tasks at hand. I'll offer you this, meaning there's stuff to do. If you want to work out and lose weight, there's stuff to do. If you want to build a bank account, there's stuff to do. If you want to go to school, there's stuff to do. There's always stuff to do, tasks. And those, sometimes we get lulled into a sense of comfort because it's easy. And I remember I had a lot of education. I had 18 years of college, including, a residency and internship and all that kind of stuff. And so I remember that feeling. Well, interesting. I left school before I was finished. Okay, I'm going to tell one on myself. Most people don't know this. I don't think anybody out there knows this publicly. I quit school. I quit college. I was in my senior year, my fifth year of a bachelor's program in music education, and I got an opportunity to travel the world. And I'm just going to be out there. You can find it on Facebook and you can look at my pictures. I got an opportunity to become a male model in the 1980s. You know what? For kicks, I'm going to show you a picture because you saw the picture of my brothers. Let me just see if I can. So let's just do this. And let's see if I can do it. So I wonder how I did it before. That's so funny. I don't think I can recreate it. I don't know how I did it before. I thought I just dropped it into like the chat. But it's not showing up to you. I could share my screen. I think that's what I did. This is terrible to be this age. Oh, wait, yeah, here. Share screen. There it is. Can you see that? So that is, somebody let me know that you can see that picture. That is me at 24, and that is the cover of Men's Vogue. It's a photograph, but it was on the cover of Men's Vogue in France. So I went to do that. So I left college to do that, and it was an opportunity, and I had one semester left, and so I had a lot of guilt about that, and I'm glad I did it. I was torn because I could have. I mean, literally, it was a spring semester. I would have had to go to summer school to graduate at a few credits missing or some one class, but I took the opportunity and I went. Now, it was 9 years before I went back to college. And it's hard to go back to college when you've had a 9-year break. And so I did, and I made some decisions about that. So I had 5 years of college, then I took a 9-year break. Then I had another 11 or 12 years, 13 years, whatever the number is. And so, oh, I did share my screen, so you got to see it. That's awesome. Um, and so you have to make some decisions about what you're willing to sacrifice and about what you're willing to do to get what you want. And the energy must be coming from your heart and aligned with your values. And certainly there are tasks associated with whatever you want to achieve. Um, the interesting thing about managing yourselves within these three spheres of influence is that if you can only control yourself and you can only control what you do and how you think, you can influence your emotions, you can influence your physical body, but there's a whole host of things that are beyond you. Where would you like to put your attention? So, client I had today was talking about all the things that they wanted to do this year and all the things that and they're just feeling very overwhelmed and very clenched in fear about money, fear about a lot of things, fear about business, fear about clients, fear. Now, I will tell you that energetically, coming to a goal or an intention with fear pushes the energy away. It actually will undermine your ability to be successful. And so, as you look to goal setting and as you look to setting intention for this year, be reasonable. And we could talk about the SMART goal acronym. In fact, I'll put it in the chat. It's called SMART goals. Some of you know this. SMART means specific. Make your goals specific. How much money? What kind of a job? Exactly what job? And I've worked with people in relationships who literally will outline the exact partner they want. And they have much of a low, and I get a little funny about that. Well, he or she has to be this height and this kind of a nose. And, the more specific, the better. The next M is measurable. Meaning, if you have a financial goal, how much? If you have a weight goal, how much? My goal was to lose 100 pounds. I did. I'd like to lose some more, but I'm really okay. I've been at this weight now for a year and I'd lost 100 pounds. And I know that what got me here, it's going to take more to get me the next 20 pounds than got me the first 100. And I'm not sure that I'm ready to commit yet. So it's measurable. SMA, it's attainable. That it's not a fantasy. Let me make a distinction between a fantasy and something that's realistic. It should be a stretch. For example, and I joke, I'm irreverent and I joke, and I used to say this, and kind of people would look at me like I'm crazy. And please hear my sense of humor, and you can deal with it. A good goal, smart goal for me was to lose 100 pounds in 18 months. I did it. It was measurable. It was specific. It was attainable. It was not a fantasy. It wasn't pie in the sky. Now, for some people to lose 100, now I was 320 pounds. That was my goal. A not attainable, non-realistic goal is that I would like to resume my modeling career, be 150 pounds. And my joke at the time was, or to become an Olympic gymnast. a female Olympic gymnast with no surgery or transition, and I'm really joking here. Please don't get offended. That is a SMART goal is an income or a job that pays 200,000 a year. A fantasy is I win the lottery and I live the rest of my life on a cruise ship. Not very many people win the lottery. And so to win the lottery sounds great, and it's not really attainable. And it's not, I mean, if you happen to win the lottery, good for you. There are a few people that have. But I don't put winning the lottery or becoming 150 pounds to be a female gymnast or even to be a gymnast at all. It's just it's not really attainable. And so make sure that your goals are attainable. And then realistic, same thing, realistic. Are they realistic? It can be a stretch. I have been saying, so I'm 220 now, 215 or so. I really would love to get under 200 pounds. Now, listen to my language. I'd love to. I'm not sure I'm willing to do what it would take. We're going to talk about levels of commitment in a minute. I'm not sure yet. We'll see. 100-pound loss was realistic. 220, 215 is realistic. I'm not sure when 85 is. My doctor says it is. My BMI says it is. My diet coach says it is. My weight has been pretty much stable now for a year. The good news, my weight's been stable for a year. Bad news is my weight's been stable for a year. And so it goes, right? So I'm looking at where I can influence, listen to the language. And then finally, the T is time sensitive or limited. My weight loss goal was within 18 months. I weigh 220 pounds within 18 months, and I attained that goal. All right. Now let's look at your levels of commitment. I know you're all high achievers and you're masters of the universe, at least you're masters of your universe, and highly internal locus of control, and you want to direct everything and set the world on fire. And I say, good for you. And the reality is you can't go, forgive me, balls to the wall with everything. So I'm going to offer you one more model before we conclude today. It's called the levels of commitment. There are 5 of them. And listen carefully, and you can listen to the recording. You can capture these notes if you want. Because as you look at your intention, look at your goals, look at what you'd like to accomplish this year or forever, you can't do everything. And I know that's not, and then there are people, I can hear you, NLPers, well, that's just a limiting decision. I'm telling you, if you have a SMART goal, it needs to be time limited. It needs to be realistic. It needs to be something that's attainable. So I'm not going to argue with you. The first level of commitment is a commitment not to commit, which is called I won't and you can't make me. Now, there have been times in my life, understand, to be a high fashion model, you can't be thin enough. I am 6'3", and it's true. It is still true. I talk to models all the time. I work with models. Clients come in that are models. And whether you're male or female, you cannot be thin enough. And I'm just going to tell you a quick modeling story to put it into perspective. I was 500 pounds by the time I was 15. When I started modeling, I was about 180, 85 pounds, the goal weight that I'd like to get to. I was told I was too big, too heavy. Now, 6'3", broad shoulders, thin waist, whatever, big thighs. I was a hockey player, football player. They said, you're just too big, you need to slim down. So I went from 185 to 165, and I was able to fit into the clothes, and I was able to model at 165. Well, I remember there were certain companies, I was in Europe, that wouldn't hire me because I was too big, too fat. They said too fat. Sorry. I had about 8% body fat, and they said, you're just too fat. And this is Europe, France, Germany, Austria, Switzerland, Spain, England. And I remember I got food poisoning in Paris once, and I couldn't eat for 2 weeks, and my weight went down to 145 pounds. So reasonable weight for my size was 185. Modeling weight that started getting me jobs was 165. Food poisoning got me down to 145, 6'3". I looked like a concentration camp survivor. So after 2 weeks of near death, kind of couldn't keep anything down. I went to the agency to pick up a check. My booker looked at me, Jeanette, and she said, "Oh, darling, you look fabulous. Don't gain an ounce." I said, "Jeanette, I'm almost dead. I have dark circles under my eyes. I mean, my ribs are showing. The word medicine is cachectic. I mean, I look like a concentration camp survivor." She goes, "Oh, don't worry about a thing. We have makeup for that." And she was not kidding. And I never worked so much. I worked like crazy as a model at 145 pounds. Why am I telling you this? There was a point subsequent to that where you couldn't get me on a diet. You couldn't tell me I couldn't eat. You couldn't make me go to the gym. And there was a level for decades in my adult life where I was like, "Oh, hell no. I am not doing that again." And my weight went up. And it hovered, the first 20 years between 200 and 250, and the subsequent 20 years between 250 and 350, and it just kept going up. And so morbid obesity is inherited and genetic in my family. And so to be now 215 is really kind of cool. So that's level one. Level two of the levels of commitment is I want the result, but I don't want to do the hard work. And that means, you know, if it happens, it happens. I'd love to happen, but I'm not willing to do anything. And I know people like this. I was a nurse manager once in a medical unit in California, and I posted a position for the paramedic liaison nurse. This would be the nurse during the day who would work with and do the training and keep the certifications for the EMS, for the paramedics, the firemen, and so on. It was an administrative position. It was off the floor. It was salaried, out of scrubs, street clothes, office, daytime, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, something like that. So Tom comes to me and he'd say, "Yeah, Patrick, I really want to apply for that position." I said, "Okay, come on in. Let's sit down. Here it is. Here's the salary. Here's the job description." And I can see, and this is a guy, he's a nurse. He's in his late 30s. He's married. He's got a couple of kids. He's been working the night shift, and he's thinking he wants actually a lifestyle change. He'd like to work daytime. He'd like to have a normal salaried position because as a nurse, typically you're working 3 12-hour shifts. You're being paid by the hour. You're getting benefits, but it's an hourly pay. You get shift differentials and overtime and so on. And whereas this was a paramedic liaison nurse, it was salaried. It was a what we call an exempt position. And I gave him it. He looked at it and he actually said at the end of the meeting, he said, "I really want that life, but I am not willing to work that hard," because it was a cut and pay. It would have been a cut and pay for him. So I want the result, but I don't want to do the hard work. I'm not willing to do the hard work. So as you look at your goals moving forward this year, are you actually willing to do what it's going to take? I'm not sure yet. The jury's still out if I'm willing to do the work it's going to take to get me to 185. I'm just going to be really transparent with you. I need to exercise more. I need to be a little bit more strict about my diet. No alcohol, like that. I don't know. I'll keep you posted. Level three. I might, I could, I'll try. Level three commitment. Now, this is still a very wishy washy level of commitment. If you have a potluck dinner at your house and you talk to your friends, you send out invites, whatever it is, somebody calls you and says, and they have an RSVP, and you kind of call them, you say, "What's up?" Or you text them, "What's up? Are you coming to the party or not?" And they say, "I might, I could, I'll try." Do you count on them? Do you ask them to bring the main course for the potluck dinner? I think not. It is a wishy-washy level of commitment. It's basically, if it's convenient, I'll do it. I might if I get around to it, but it is not something that you can really hang your head on. And then I turn the tables on you. If you look at your level of commitment to what you want to accomplish this year, and it's kind of like, well, I might, I don't know, you know, don't count on it. Don't, if it's really something that is important to you, don't count on accomplishing it. Number 4, I'll do my best. Now, this is a very respectable level of commitment. This really, you start to ratchet up, you're going to do your best. Now, understand, I said there are 5 levels. This is not the most committed you can be. Some would say that, well, that's all you have is your best. Well, that's not actually true. You have your current best. And so if I say to myself about my weight loss, I'm going to do my best to bring my weight down. I don't know that it's a guarantee because it's a commitment to effort. Level 4 is a commitment to effort. Level 5 is I'll do whatever it takes. Now that's a level of commitment. If I were committed, because if you look at 4 and 5, level 4 is a commitment to effort, level 5 is a commitment to results. Now, getting back to our earlier discussion, and we're almost done here, there are things you can't control. So you say, I'm going to do whatever it takes to win the lottery. Well, good luck. I'm going to do whatever it takes to attract the relationship of my dreams. Good luck. I'm going to do whatever it takes to get a PhD. That might happen. That's probably going to happen. I'm going to do whatever it takes to cut my spending. I'm going to do whatever it takes to adhere to a budget. I'm going to do whatever it takes to, finance my retirement account at the max levels. So there are things that are measurable, that are realistic, they're attainable. That you can say, I'm going to do whatever it takes to achieve that result. And sometimes they're more ambiguous. I'm going to craft the life of my dreams personally, professionally, spiritually, right? Emotionally. Okay, how would you, and I don't want to be overly linear and overly nerdy about it, but as you look at your goals, as your prayers in Hawaiian, we say pule, you set your goals and intentions for the year, make sure that they meet some of these criteria, that they are measurable. Like, how would you know when you got it? And, things that are more ambiguous. And I do work with a lot of people who come in and say that I really want you to help me attract the relationship of my dreams. That's a hard one. It really is, because it requires so much inner work. And when I give the feedback, because I do this for a living, and I give the feedback to people about, well, tell me about your relationship history, and they pull up all sorts of kind of bad behaviors. I say, well, do you notice that in all the failed relationships, you're the common denominator? I'll let that sit for a while. Do you notice in all the failed relationships you've had that you're the only common denominator? Let's look at your patterns, your habits, your trends, your karma, your behavior, and see where we can shift it to attract and change the energetic vibration around your relationship uh, um, stuff, right? And people don't like to hear that. I don't like to hear it, because that is blaming them for why their marriage didn't work. Well, it takes 2 to tango, as my mother always said, and there's always two sides to a story. What you get to look at is, what can you own? And I have worked with several, many actually, people who just aren't ready to take ownership for their part in a failed relationship. It was always them. It's the blame game. It's the external locus of control. Well, but you don't understand. In fact, there's a website called Quora, Quora, and somebody asked the question about. I had responded to that relationship. I'm an expert, allegedly, and I had responded basically saying you have to look at your own patterns. And somebody actually responded to my response saying, "Yeah, but what if it really is them?" I said, well, then, keep trying, I guess. It's not only them. There were 2 of you, you know. And like I think they said, I've been married 5 times. It always was them. Okay, well, you chose them. You chose those partners. So take a look at your levels of commitment. Take a look at your goals and your prayers, and spend some time, and set some intentions for what you want to accomplish. And I think that's probably enough for today. Are there any questions that any of you have before we conclude today? It's been a pleasure being with you. I'm excited. So we're crafting this year's programs. Probably going to do a virtual and hybrid level one HUNA training, getting a lot of requests from around the country for people who want to study HUNA, but they really can't get to California, Hawaii, Las Vegas. And so I'm playing with, I think it's going to happen in a few months, a hybrid where we're going to do a 5-day HUNA over 2 weekends, and it'll be virtual, and that whoever's in can come to Las Vegas. We'll do the in-person, like, Dr. Matt does his NLP sometimes virtual and live. So I'm crafting that together, and that has never been done before. So I'm really excited to put that together, and I'll keep you posted. We are starting a master class this month, and it's on the website, drpatrickscott.com. If you are an advanced practitioner, I had a request from level 4 HUNA students. You don't have to be a level 4 HUNA student to join the master class. It's a monthly 2-hour class, very open-ended, very open group on kind of whatever you want to work on. There'll be psychic readings and advanced practices around energy work and healing and managing emotions and all that sort of stuff. So look for that on the website. And probably going to do an STFU class in Spokane, Washington. I've not been up to the Pacific Northwest, and so we have a group up there that's in Idaho and Washington, and I'm not that familiar with that area, but probably going to try to get up there this in June to do an STFU. Probably going to Japan in October, November, December, something like that, to teach a number of classes in Japan. And then in May, and again, I don't have exact dates to give you, probably doing a level 2 class here in Las Vegas. That will need to be live. I can't do that online, but I can do a sort of a hybrid. So have fun, set your goals, and let me know if you need anything. Oh, hoo